Spoiler alert. From the Duchess of Gramont's diary, Versailles, the 7th of June, 17 something. Quote, towards 4 in the morning, my maid entered, followed by a most singular creature, a foreign woman, confused and as pale as tallow, who seemed to require my protection. I had no hesitation taking her in. God, such a mournful expression, yet such a graceful manner. I've known the poor child but a few hours, and am already most fond of her. I do believe she begins to love me too. End quote. This is from the 2023 film, The Vourdalak. RickRamos, what say you?
We've talked a lot of times about the wealth of a movie library in your head, the movies that you have seen, the movies that you've loved, the movies that you've disliked, and in a lot of ways we've talked about how those films influence another film. You obviously take something from Scorsese quotes an image or a shot or something from Godard or from Truffaut, from Fellini. Sometimes you have outright thievery that is too many to mention. But I think watching this movie like I did 2 nights ago, the thing that really struck me is how movie watching can affect the movie that you're watching. And we've talked in the past about how it's a bit unfair to judge a movie based on what you wish the movie had been rather than what the movie actually is. I'll say this, for The Vourdalak, I enjoyed it, and I felt like there were a couple of really big chances that the film took in creating this what is it, 17th century story, 18th century story of
18th century,
18th century French aristocratic story that's mixed with, I don't want to be offensive here, but I imagine gypsy culture, which is, that's what I took from it. I enjoyed it, but I couldn't help watching it thinking Robert Eggers would have made a much better film. And I go back to his debut film, The Witch. I believe it was his debut film. A film that I didn't particularly care for the first time that I watched it, but as I've followed his career a little bit further, and particularly with The Lighthouse, which I think is one of the best films of the last decade or so, I realized that there was a lot more on screen than what I was absorbing or what I was taking in. And sadly, The Vourdalak felt like it was diluted, or it felt like it was decaf Eggers.
Really? That's interesting.
Yeah, for me, that's what it felt like.
That sucks.
Yeah, until it got to... until it got to the part that you're going to watch and go, what the fuck is this? And I love that. Mm-hmm. I love that. But I couldn't help thinking that it didn't deliver. There's also a part of me that wonders, because I don't think there has ever been a more abrupt change in movie watching than what we're experiencing now. So,
in film history?
In the history of film, I don't think there was anything that is so abrupt. You could talk about sound, but even let's say the use of sound. Seeing sound in a film, even in its early days, it was sound was only like the jazz singer. Jazz singer only has a handful of scenes that have sync sound, and slowly sound became what we know it today, which is basically a layering on image that replicates what you would see with your eyes and hear with your ears. So movies became more realistic in that sense, because what you were watching, you were also hearing. You weren't doing that. You weren't doing that in Birth of a Nation, The General, The Gold Rush. You weren't doing that in those films. Sound would slowly start coming into play, and then it would take a while before it advanced to the point where it wasn't so obvious that somebody was speaking into a microphone. Those early scenes where the scene would be set up at a dining room table, and there'd be a flower pot in the middle of the dining room table. There'd be a vase full of flowers, and there was a microphone in it. It's obvious that there was a microphone in it, but they did the best that they could to hide that kind of thing. So what I'm talking about is the slow evolution of cinematic technology, so that it becomes something that we're familiar with today. Now, but that's taking in the movie. What I'm talking about here is the way we watch movies, which is no longer in a theater, in the dark, with a group full of people who were respectful of the fucking experience and could shut the goddamn phones off and pay attention to what was on the screen and would be absorbed in it. I feel
the ritual of movie watching and movie going. Yeah,
that is completely different, and I think that's something that this film suffers from, because you're not able to watch it. There were a number of moments in the films that were jump scares that would have been wonderful in a theater, where you freak out and then you look at the people around you and you laugh because you're all freaking out in the same manner. That experience is basically gone, and we will never get it back, because streaming is so much easier. It's lazy. People don't understand. People really do not understand what they have lost. And it's sad, because as the generations go on, my nephew is 18 years old. In his life, he has never known life without the internet. He has never really known life without a cellular phone. So the idea of like we've laughed about in the past of going out and then calling your mom on a payphone, calling her collect because you didn't have the money on you, and when that operator connects and you say, I'm through, come and get me, and then the thing hangs up. Those days are gone.
Yeah, they deny the charges. Yeah. No longer can you put on a trench coat and go masturbate at a fucking porn theater then and there.
Yeah, there's no danger in it. There's no thrill in it now. So the thing about it is, I watch a movie like The Vourdalak and I feel bad, because in order to evaluate this film, all I can do is talk about the technical aspects of what I'm seeing on the screen, which are very good. It's a beautifully shot film. I think it's well acted. And I think it's, I think the story that it tells is interesting. The problem with the film is it doesn't create a tension, because that tension isn't, that tension doesn't grow with an experience, with a group experience, and so the film suffers for it.
So the problem with the film is the fact that it was made in the wrong time.
Unfortunately for Adrien Beau and his cast and cinema as a whole, yeah. Unfortunately, it was made at the wrong time. But also, unfortunately for us, we are now mired in the wrong time. Yeah, it's fucked up.
But you can't look past it. You can see all these things and you can be like, yeah, you know what? This girl, she's great. She's really interesting. Yeah. She's not my ex. That's what they're saying?
What? To a degree, yeah. Because
had I met her before I met my ex, I think she could be the one that I compare other girls to. But now I'm comparing.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a problem in. You got to remember, I'm 51 years old pretty soon, and I have a shitload of movie watching behind me. So what I'm not saying that this sets me apart in a better way. In some ways, it sets me apart from the average moviegoer in a much better way, because I have a wealth of movie watching experience that informs what I watch. I know the history of film, and I know how this plays into that, and how this develops in a certain way. But at the same time, I'm trapped in a past of movie watching that I can no longer go back to and I can no longer experience. Because number one, a movie like the Vourdalak, you're not going to be able to see it in the theater unless you live in a New York or a Los Angeles and you're aware of it for the week and a half that it's going to play.
If that, yeah.
If that. Because nobody is going to see this movie. I don't know how the fuck you found this movie. But I would have loved to have seen this with a paying audience. The problem is, audience, now you're putting your trust in an audience that doesn't respect the movie watching experience in the way that it's going to flower into a great, frightening, tension-filled scare. I was watching it, laughing and having a good time with it, but I knew it was missing. It's a meal without salt. It has no seasoning, and that's what I'm starting to recognize how important the movie watching experience is, and that breaks my heart because I can't watch a certain type of movie any longer.
But what I guess to continue down this path before we actually get into the movie itself, but I mean, why watch movies at all anymore then?
That's a valid question. Why watch movies at all anymore? I guess because you're holding on for that hope. You can't become a total cynic and pessimist and say you can, but I think
you have.
In certain aspects of life, of course. But movies are so important to me that I can still hold out for... Salem's Lot. We talked about Salem's Lot last week.
Mm-hmm.
I got the
fear. A TV series. So you're not going to watch it with a paid audience that's in a theater, blah, blah.
No, of course not. But the scares were there. It was riveting. But I also think that there is something here where, the second aspect of it is I think this film should have been darker. And I'm not talking about darker thematically. They should have shot this fucking thing with candles. This should have been darker. This should have been shadows. I should have seen less. And I like the puppetry that is involved in the father character, because I remember watching it thinking to myself, what the fuck kind of ridiculous shit is this? But the fact that everybody sells out to it.
Come back, and come back to it as a topic. Okay. But keep going with the idea of why this movie suck now.
It doesn't suck. It's a good movie. And maybe if you could gather enough of your nerd foreign movie loving friends together to watch it, it would be fun. That would be an interesting experience. But the problem also is to find, 5 or 6 friends who have 2 hours that they can dedicate to coming over to your place and watching this shit, on your big screen TV or your projection or whatever. And you could replicate that experience, because I think you could elevate this entire thing just with a handful of people watching it with you.
It's fascinating, because it's like the obvious is that our experience of film, our experience of watching film, is so much a part of what we perceive to be the the overall quality of the film itself. So like,
yeah,
if you are in a fucking horrible mood, does it add to or take away from an experience of a film? Obviously, it's going to take away.
sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it
Well,
relieves the
that even
stress.
just speaks to more of that just speaks more to the subjectivity of it and the kind of the arbitrariness of it. It's I hear what you're saying, and I find that I can see what you're saying, and I can follow that logic. I just don't necessarily carry that perspective. I don't think.
I wish I didn't carry that perspective. I
mean,
I'm envious of you.
The thing is that I understand that, like, I can say, and I've said about certain films, I can't think of one in particular right now where I could have said, this would have been really cool to see in the theater because of all the things that you're talking about.
Yeah.
But was still, I can still enjoy a movie by myself. I can say I would enjoy it more with an audience, blah, blah, blah. I could enjoy it more with an audience, and imagine if I were rich, then I would enjoy it more because I'm fucking rich. Like, you can keep adding all of these things,
Always.
And it's like, okay, cool. But
okay,
the downside of having watched of like having seen as many movies as you've seen is that, like, sometimes it's like, yeah, you get a little jaded.
Sure.
And then it's kind of like, well, okay, the Joker was interesting, but it's not fucking Scorsese.
No. Yeah.
This was interesting, but it's not really New York City. Gotham City is trying to be New York, and it's not. Well, New York is this, but it's not. This part of Chicago is not as good as this part of Chicago. You know what I mean? Everything becomes, well, it's not this, and then at that point, you kind of just become, or the danger is that you're going to be labeled as just this fucking, like, naysayer to everything. And then, like, you're thinking, okay, the fucking Eggers, that's interesting because the last film that Eggers did was a vampire film that we admired, but also weren't really into. On the level that, because of the hype, on the level that we thought we should have been, or we could have been, or whatever. So that's interesting, because it's like, well, for this, it's like Eggers would have done it better. But then for the Eggers movie, who would have done that better? You can keep always just moving the goalpost, and then what? It would have, well, the book, it's not as good as the fucking book. Well, the book is actually based on a short story. So the short story is better. And the short story is actually based on a poem. The poem was better, but then the folklore is more interesting. And then at that point, you're at the Big Bang, and fuck it. You know what I mean? Like, nothing beats the Big Bang. I thinking if Eggers had done this, I think it would have been a totally different. Eggers is very research based, which is cool. But I feel like it might have lost. This film has a very, like, it's kind of like it has this folklore art house feel to it that I think would have been lost because Eggers, I think, would have, because of his maximalist kind of approach, I think they would have used more of a budget. And I think some of what I think to be like the mystery of the film would have been, there could still be things that you don't understand because Eggers is jamming in so much back, like, stuff that isn't even, like, talked about in the film based on the research that he's done. But I think it also would have lost its European feel had it been obviously an American. The premise of the film is that you have an 18th century French a member of the French court. He's this French nobleman. He's traveling through Eastern Europe. And at one point he's robbed and stranded, and a family, he first goes to some house and he's asking for them to take him in, but they're like, sorry, bro, it's nighttime. We don't let people in.
Yeah.
Go to Gorsha, this man named Gorsha, go to his house and he'll help you out. So he goes to that home and he's taken in, and there he finds blood and horror. And I'm glad that I found this movie because it opened up to me this whole other tradition because of where it comes from. This whole other tradition of vampire source material. So when we think of in our American vampire genealogy or whatever, and we've talked about this in other episodes, and we're going to continue talking about it because it's all connected, but obviously the biggie is fucking Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Mm-hmm.
And that's affected so much of film, and we talked about that whatever the last episode the Salem's Lot episode, because it dealt with like the literature and Stephen King and going backwards, like from Stephanie Meyer with Twilight to the adaptation of Anne Rice's book, to Salem's Lot and the adaptation to Anne Rice's book, the adaptation in the 90s, 70s, she wrote the book, to I Am Legend, the book, to Todd Browning's Dracula, to Nosferatu, to Bram Stoker's Dracula in 1897. Before that, you have another Irish writer, Joseph Le Fanu, writing Carmilla. That has an impact on him. But before that, you have the fucking big year, 1819. It's called The Year Without a Summer. And Percy Shelley, Mary Shelley, Claire Claremont, Lord Byron, and Lord Byron's young doctor, John William Polidori, are hanging out in this fucking villa, and it's raining, and they're like, let's tell stories and write stories. And Mary Shelley gets the idea for Frankenstein. Byron tells a story. Polidori takes elements of that story, models his character on Lord Byron, and creates the vampire, which eventually becomes like a model for kind of this Dracula character. But the story that we're looking at today is from a different tradition, because it comes from a short story by A.K. Tolstoy, who is Leo Tolstoy's cousin, and it's called The Family of the Vourdalak, and it's written in like 1839, 1840. So it's after Polidori writes The Vampire, but it's before Bram Stoker's Dracula, it's before Carmilla, and it's part of this other parallel Slavic and Russian tradition of vampire stories. Like Pushkin wrote a vampire poem. This particular Tolstoy wrote at least three different pieces about vampires, the Upir, and you kind of have this like cross-pollination between the, let's say, Anglo-Irish, Western European vampire tradition, which affects American film, and this Slavic and Russian tradition, because you get this story written in French. So who knows what translations and serials and shit like that, like, traveled west, etc. And here you have like a traditional early Slavic folklore vampire, which he's not a prince, he's not sexy, it's not this love story across centuries, etc. He's not based on Vlad Tepes, Vlad the Impaler. This is the Eastern European vampire, the Upir, the Strigoi, this the Nosferatu, like even that, like where does that come from? What is it? What's the meaning of that? Um, then there's all this different speculation in terms of like the etymology. But the original vampire is this kind of restless spirit or restless soul that comes back. Your family member comes back as a revenant and comes back to the house, and that person can eventually turn the whole family. And sometimes these people, they've been murdered, they've died like wrongfully, they've committed suicide, so they come back as vampires. This idea of like consumption, which is basically TB, the plague, being able to come back and like now turn the whole family or whole village. This has a much older feel than even the idea of Dracula, which has an old feel because of Bram Stoker's research of Eastern European, the origins. So here, it's a story of, and the film is in French. I had never seen the film, so we've been on the lookout for some new, not necessarily new stuff, but some stuff that was new to us for this series that we're doing this year, 2025. Some old shit, stuff from the 80s that some stuff I had seen, some stuff we've both seen that we're going to talk about. Some stuff is newer in terms of like when it was released. So this is newer. It's a couple years old. Humanist vampire seeking consenting suicidal person is new-ish, but it was also new to us. So to me, I watched this film and I'm not going like, fuck, like I've already seen this other shit or whatever, and that kills it for me, or I didn't see it in the theater. To me, this is like, I'm excited because it's a film that I haven't seen, that once I find out it's based on this and I'm like, oh shit, like this is, now I want to go and get into, or there's another piece called V from the 1830s that ends up becoming a 67 film. And I had already seen like clips of that film and even stills, and I've been wanting to watch that. So now I'm like, I want to see what are Russian filmmakers, Soviet era and post-Soviet era, like what do they do with the vampire? You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely.
So to me, this is a doorway.
Diving into culture as an aspect of the filmmaking process, especially when it comes to worldwide legends, that's a fascinating deep dive, and I think that's one of the things, because we were looking for a Hong Kong vampire movie. We were looking for older films, newer films. We were looking for gems that we hadn't seen. So I value this experience. I just have my own, I guess, my own problems, my own hang-ups. But it's also it's also a matter of, partly when you watch a movie, time does not allow for. I can't stay up late anymore. I work early in the morning, so I'm in bed by like 10 o'clock or no, actually like 8 o'clock sometimes. So I was forced to watch this movie in daylight. That affects it. That's the kind of thing that affects it. Yeah, well, I got blackout curtains, but I need darkness. I need, part of the thing about horror, what helps horror is knowing that there's darkness outside and you don't know what's out there. It is right to be afraid of the dark. You don't know what is out there. Anybody who says there's nothing in the dark that isn't there in the light, fuck you. There's a lot there that's in the dark. And that helps the movie watching experience, where, like, oh shit, I forgot I left this in the car, now I gotta go out there. I want a movie to scare the shit out of me to the point where I have to second think whether or not I want to go into my car and get whatever the fuck it is that I left in there. Or, rethink going outside to the laundry room so that I can throw a load in or move the wash into the dryer. Maybe I'm just gonna have to wait till tomorrow to wash it again during the day. That's I want a film to give me that kind of creepiness. And maybe if I had watched this movie when the sun had gone down, when the children of the night were coming out, maybe I would have liked it a lot more. I'm imagining I watched this movie in every conceivable wrong way that you could watch it. So but that's also the problem that we spoke of either last week or the week before, where watching a movie at home, you do not have the dedication to the movie watching experience, no matter how much you want to. You do not have the dedication to the movie watching experience that you do if you go to see it in a movie theater. It's impossible.
There's a give or take, because we talked about that, and I mentioned your house is not neutral.
Yeah.
The way that a movie theater is, because your house has its own demands on you and the neighborhood and whatever the fuck else. But I mean, I think like right now you and I are recording, and every time I say it's midnight, it's not midnight, but it is midnight because I say it is. And I try in the space that I use to record, and I haven't always, for most, I would say 98% of the time I have had that, but 2%, no, I've had to record in other areas or whatever. And before we used to record in person, so I'll record at your apartment and at your house and blah, blah. But my workspace, my study, my office, this room that I use, to me is a very sacred space of writing, recording, watching shit, reading, and I have made it that kind of ritual space. And does that mean that like someone can't come and fucking throw a baseball at my window? Of course they can. But when I'm in here doing whatever I'm doing, I've drawn that magic circle. And I don't believe that, and because I'm in here with this particular space, I'm doing these things by myself. Sometimes if I watch a movie with Leslie, like in the bedroom, like that's different, or like with the pets or something like that, that's a different vibe. But what I'm doing now, this is separate. So we do have the power to create our own fucking vibe, whether it's in our car or wherever the fuck we are. So I don't want that to be an excuse, especially for someone like you who's a film lover, like who is basically a bachelor. Like you can do whatever the fuck you want. You have no one to fucking like check in with, so you can create that space. You can't create the audience, but you can create the fucking space. I'm sure you have a fucking good sized screen. I'm sure you have good sound on it. You know what I mean? Like, so I mean, you're the creator of that experience.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Going back to the film, the another interesting thing is that this source material also, the Mario Bava 60s film Black Sabbath with Boris Karloff is based. There's one section that's based on this. I haven't seen it, but now I'm like, oh shit, like I'm gonna see it.
Yeah.
And that's actually the film that gave the heavy metal band Black Sabbath its name. There's also an Italian-Spanish production from the early 70s called Nine of the Devils. That's also from this. So there are three. This short story has spawned 3 films, and I'm just having seen this one. I'm kind of like, I don't know if the other ones are gonna be. I mean, Boris Karloff, I'm down. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't know that they're going to be, to me, as cool as this one, because is it because it's the first one I watched? I don't fucking know. I just think that this one is the language, the voiceover. So going back to now, let's talk about the reveal or whatever it is. You have this main character who is this French aristocrat. So he's dressed the way they dressed
he's a dandy
in the 1700s.
Yeah.
And he's got his wig. His face is powdered.
Mm-hmm.
He's traveling through the forest. And then the people that he encounters, you see them dressed differently. So there's, and going back to Eggers, the way that the Nosferatu character dresses, and some of the Romani, the gypsy, vampire hunters or whatever they were, like in that film with the furs and the hats and stuff, you see these people dressed like that. And it's not the year isn't what I read in the beginning was an excerpt, and we'll get to what that means in a little bit. But it's not specified the year, and it's not specified the actual place. When we get that it's Eastern European, he shows her on a map where it is, and I tried to like freeze it, but he kind of just sweeps his hand over the general area. So typically you're thinking, okay, like Dracula, what it's based on, Castle Dracula and all that shit is Carpathian Mountains, Transylvania. That's in modern day Romania. But it could be Serbia, and the idea that their enemies are Turks. The original Vlad the Impaler fought the Muslim Turks. So there's all that. But the idea is this guy looks super out of place. He's there. You see, very much so. And you have also this idea of like manliness. So who he first perceives to be a woman is actually the youngest son of this Gorsha patriarch. And this patriarch has three kids. And they're all adults, but his eldest son, Yegor, who lives at the home with his wife and his son. There's the daughter, his young son, little boy, named Vlad. There's the daughter Zdenka, and then there's Pyotr, the younger son, who is very feminine and dresses in a feminine way. And they wear, you could maybe mistake them as are they Roman, Gypsy, or whatever, because they have like all of these like baubles, all of these jewels, or they're not necessarily like opulent, but like all of these adornments. So the idea is that the dad, this aristocrat, is on whatever kind of, he's an envoy, whatever kind of business he's doing as an emissary to whatever government he's trying to reach. He's caught up there, and he needs a horse. But he's like, I just need a horse, but you'll be repaid, blah, blah. So they're like, all right, the only issue is that our dad is missing. He went away to fight the Turks, and he said that after 6 days, if he comes back before 6 days, then okay, cool. But if he doesn't come back after 6 days, we can't accept him, because then he will be a Vourdalak. And apparently the etymology of that is it's because of the original kind of this fuzzy area between werewolf and vampire. It's supposed to mean the one who wears like a wolf's fur.
Yeah.
And so they're like, what the fuck? So the eldest son is like, why the fuck did you let him leave? He's old. So they're out, they're doing their thing, and then they see in like a pile collapsed against some logs or whatever is this body. And they're like, fuck, it's the dad. The eldest son picks him up and he brings him to this table outside. Eat. And you see the dad, and the dad is what?
How would you describe him? I don't.
He's a marionette of a skeleton.
You know what he looked like? Just to give those who have never seen it, so they can give it some kind of context. Have you ever seen Hellboy, the original Hellboy film with Ron Perlman, Guillermo del Toro? They dig up a body in a Russian graveyard, and they bring it back to life, and it's basically a skeleton with some facial features. That's what this thing looks like. And there was a moment where I said, what the fuck? And I was teetering on the brink of giving up on the film. But there's something about the fact that everybody bought into what they were watching. Everybody on screen bought into the father. So there was a part of me that I couldn't figure out if they couldn't see what we were seeing, or if that was their reality. And I liked the vagueness of it, because I wasn't sure what the fuck it was exactly that I was looking at. But I did see that it got gruesomer. It got more and more gruesome and more unnerving as the film went on. And you see him, like, he starts to speak, and it's a puppet. It's obviously a puppet, but after a short while, if you're buying into this movie, you don't care anymore, because
love that it's a fucking marionette. I don't want to fucking fucking die.
But you know what? I thought he was going to die immediately. I didn't think that the filmmakers were brave enough to make the entire second half of the movie that character.
About him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the entire second half of the film is dominated by this fucking character. And I just keep watching the scenes over and over, because also the director does the voice of the dad.
I got you. It's
of the marionette, the vampire. And his diction is so beautiful. And his voice is so resonant, and it's so full of like arrogance and condescension. Because he's like, is this how you're gonna fucking treat your dad? And it just keeps pushing you further and further, because the first thing you do is you see this fucking skeleton, and you're like, what the fuck? And they're at the dinner table, and the French aristocrat is a stand-in for the audience, because he's just kind of like, what the fuck? And he's like revolted, but he has to keep his manners, and the dog is barking at the fucking dad, and he's like, make it stop. And he fucking hands his younger son the fucking musket, and you're going like, what the fuck? And we've talked about this. You kill a dog in a movie, and like, you're fucking crossing a line.
Sure. Absolutely.
And like, that's a line that everyone knows. That's a universal fucking line. And they kill that fucking dog, because the son is like, no. And then the elder son is like, obey. And so he goes and shoots it. And he's like, I'm going to go bury it now. And it's like, what the fuck? And then from there, he's fucking creeping around at night, obviously this vampire. But in this version, because of this aspect, it's not Nosferatu where the son kills it. He's just doing whatever the fuck he wants, because it's his house. But he produces at the table. He has the head of his Turkish enemy.
Yeah.
And he's like, And that's fucking crazy. And then he's like, I'm fucking, take me to bed. So his son has to carry him to bed.
Like a baby. And then now he picks him up and carries him like a baby.
Fucking baby.
So weird.
Yeah. And then he's telling the aristocrat, he's like, we'll have to talk tomorrow. And he's like, we probably seem brutish to you, but we're not used to like powdered courtesans in our house. And you're going like, fuck, he just called him like a fucking lady of the court, you know? And the dude's like, pardon? And he's just like, whatever. And it's horrifying and gross, but it's funny. And it's this fucking marionette. Like it's weird, but cool. Then he's fucking lurking around that dude's room, and there's like lightning and so like flashes of light.
But it's also the tension of him trying to light a candle with a flint. Candle. Yeah.
Yeah. Then he ends up luring his grandson into the forest, and it's this shot that like the grandson is looking dead on at the camera, and you just see this fucking marionette hand come over his fucking shoulder from behind.
Yeah.
And he just bends the head down to the side and just like goes at the neck, and all this blood is fucking gushing out. And you're going like, how the fuck? I mean, this film just came out not that long ago, but I'm like, how the fuck did I not see this movie? This is fucking cool. And he just slowly keeps attacking and doing all this shit. And he's toxic. I mean, it's really about the idea of toxic family dynamics.
Mm-hmm.
And how tragedy can trigger family traumas and generational traumas. And in a way, the eldest son he's trying to live up to his father's name. But in that sense, he ends up becoming like a Michael Corleone kind of figure, because in an effort to save his father, he ends up destroying or having a hand in destroying his whole fucking family, because he refuses to see, in this case, he refuses to see what everyone else sees. Is like, this motherfucker told us if he came back to be wary of him, if he came back after that certain time. But the thing is that they found him right on that 6th day. And they're like, it's not fucking him. Like, what, like, and he's like, no, it's him.
But
they don't have this.
I was just they also tell each other without ever addressing the older brother, the oldest son, that this is the thing that will feed on the family. The Vourdalak will feed on the family. It will destroy everything. So they know what it is. But it's that power dynamic of family that you're describing that is so. It might be difficult for an American audience who are quick to shit on everybody in our family, but with those kind of dynamics, if you've ever been in that type of situation where you have that hierarchy, the fear, both the fear and the adherence to family loyalty is palpable. It's very strong.
Imagine what goes on in the White House.
Yeah.
Imagine. I mean, like, there are people that are probably like, what the fuck? And like, just act like it's normal.
Yeah. It's crazy.
And then you know what I mean? Like, and then there are those that are like, no, we're going to prop up this fucking marionette. Like, I'm pulling the marionette. No, I'm pulling the marionette. You know what I mean? So it's, imagine. And this is an 18th century family. And the symbolism is that the vampire wants blood. And in this original folkloric setting, that's who it comes for. It comes for its own blood. Like, in a literal sense, but in a familial sense. And one of the characters, the daughter, I think, well, they each say it in their own way. The idea that the heart is the one that kills you, because love itself is a curse. The heart literally like delivers and draws blood through the body, but the heart as a symbol of love is like, that's what ties you to these people. In a sense, that's what brings it back like home. But it's not the one that's like, oh, I'm gonna go fucking to England on a fucking boat and kill everyone on it and then kill people in England. No, I'm gonna go home and kill everyone there. I'm gonna go to the people I love. And people don't want to fucking believe. They want to believe what they believe against all reason, logic, self-preservation, self-interest. They will follow what they hold dear, and they'll follow it to the fucking grave. In the sense, like in Alien, when she's like, don't fucking let them in. You're breaking quarantine, going back to the plague element. And they're like, no, we can't leave this person who's part of our shit like out there, and they bring it fucking in. And so ultimately the little boy dies. And so in this sense, they did tell the elder son, because they're about to have him staked, because the dad disappears again. And that's when he goes and kills his grandson. But now that the grandson's dead and wrapped in a shroud, they're going to have him stake the little boy's body. And he's right about to when the dad comes back, and he's like, what the fuck are you guys doing now? And the aristocrat tells the dad, he says, well, your timing is basically impeccable. Would you bless the corpse? And then obviously the fucking skeletal marionette vampire is like, what if I refuse? And they're like, bless the corpse.
Yeah.
And the younger son is like, I command you. And he's like, you command me. The son commands the father. When has that ever happened? And the son has now taken the stake, because they've gathered hawthorn, which also appears in Salem's Lot, because the thorns are part of like traditionally, like you can create barriers with hawthorn or thorns that the vampires won't cross. They won't cross the threshold. Garlic, obviously the smell, the cleansing element to it. These old like remedy type things. So now the younger son is going to stake the dad, and they're like, fucking do it, stake him. And the dad's like, do it. And then he calls him a sissy.
He basically says you're not man enough to do it.
Right.
He does call him a sissy, and oh my God, that was fucked up.
Yeah. Then he's like, all right, now we're going to go inside. And he's just this fucking unhinged, fucking toxic ass dad. And come back as a vampire. And you're asking, like, how fucked up was he, like, when he was alive versus now? Like, what's worse?
Yeah, what's the perspective? I mean, what are we watching? It brings up a lot of questions on family dynamics, and adding a horror element to it. It's like, it's obvious that the family was fucked up before this even happened.
Yeah,
but
because the daughter,
yeah.
daughter is fell in love with some traveler or whatever, and who knows if that were a vagabond. Mm-hmm. Who knows if that was like if he was a gypsy or what the fuck? But the skeletal dad vampire marionette, he caresses the daughter's breast. And he's like, you've already disgraced yourself with that vagabond. And and he has this, the accent is beautiful, and he speaks very slowly. Then they go into the house, and he makes them dance. So we're guiding you through this whole fucking movie practically. Yeah. He makes them dance. Then the fucking younger son busts in wearing like a flower crown, no shirt, lipstick, and he's like, I'm full on fucking like me right now, like in my power, and I'll fucking kill you, Dad. And the dad's like, bam, he shoots him.
Yeah.
We told you. Spoiler alert. We told you.
There's a few spoilers to come. Yeah.
Yes, whatever. You guys fucked up. You should have seen it. It just keeps getting crazier and crazier until the character has to make an escape, but he returns for the daughter. He returns for the daughter who he's like, who in the beginning of the film, he fucking like, he's used to his power dynamics.
Well,
so he tried to fuck
women.
up.
Yeah. He's used to taking women.
He grabs her and he's like, I don't remember if he calls her a peasant or what the fuck he calls her.
He calls her a peasant.
And she's just kind of like, okay, like, here, let me take you somewhere. And she basically leads him off a cliff, and he's fucking like freaking the fuck out, hanging on for dear life. But so right away you're like, oh, this is not a sympathetic character. He's a piece of shit too.
Mm-hmm.
But over time you're just like, okay, yeah, he's a piece of shit, but he's horrified because he's like now in over his head. And so now he's in the room. The mom has already, the eldest son's wife has already been turned by her son. All this shit's happened.
Yeah.
The daughter starts kissing him, and you're going like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, and he tells her, what are you doing? Like, this is not the time. So now he starts fucking her. So they have a sex scene. They're like having their lovemaking scene. Then you see a drop of blood, and you're like, no, fuck. Drops of blood. He looks in the mirror.
I wasn't sure at that point yet. Because, you know, she wraps her leg around him.
Right. Or you don't know if the dad's like lurking or what the fuck is happening.
You're not expecting what's going to happen. Certainly. You're not expecting.
So he fucking he's making sweet love to that chick.
Mm-hmm.
Then the camera points at him from below, like from the perspective, because they're doing it missionary, so it's the perspective. Now, first you see a shot of his back with her legs wrapped around him. Mm-hmm. Then it cuts, and now you're seeing from her perspective looking up at him. But he's fucking covered in blood, and you see fucking nasty-ass bite marks on his neck.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, you're fucked. You're fucked, dude.
But still, you're thinking, oh, she's been turned.
Yeah.
You're not thinking.
Well, he looks in well, even before that, what it is that we skipped it. He turns and looks at the mirror. And you just see the fucking marionette, like, caressing his back. And then it's that shot from underneath him up. And then it cuts. And it's the fucking, like, he's basically been fucking that dad.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, in the, as if were transformed into the daughter. So he's, like, super fucking horrified, screams, fucking falls back onto the floor. He's noticing all this blood, he's been bitten, and the skeletal vampire marionette dad is like mocking him. He grabs his fucking clothes. He's like, what is it? Is it Cuba Gooding Jr. and fucking Boys in the Hood? Where he's like, he just grabs the clothes. He's half naked, fucking running down the hall, putting shit on, hopping, fucking on one leg, trying to put his clothes on, bleeding. He goes downstairs. The whole family's fucking vampires. They've all been fucking turned into vampires. He goes back up. Oh, at this point, he's fucking staked the fucking dad. So the dad's fucking now. It's like, and he's like, why? And he tells him, had I met you before, things that would have been different, and it just none of it makes sense. But in the coolest kind of way, he has to escape. He finds the daughter, gives her the map that he had shown her. He's like, just go to fucking. He's like, I don't have much time left. Go to France. Go to the court. Get out of here. Just get out of here. Escape. And she's always had, throughout the film, she always has this like dreamy, distant quality to her. So she doesn't say shit. And he's like, she's always talked about wanting to kill herself, to throw herself off that cliff that she basically let him off of, that he barely survived because he was able to hold on. So that was a foreshadowing. So he's just like, just please go. He's very polite. He's very cordial. And he fucking throws himself off. Well, falls back. She goes, you see this fucking fuzzy ass fucking, what is it? Is it like 16 millimeter? What is that?
Yeah, I would say 16 millimeter film. Yeah.
It's just very like fuzzy, gauzy looking quality to the shots. She's on a horse, and then she takes this rag and fucking puts it in her mouth.
It's a very strange. Yeah, it's a very strange, and I'm not. That's like I said, all of it is there. And maybe I have to go back to it and watch it again maybe I have to create the right circumstances to watch it, but I wasn't prepared for it.
In your mind.
I wasn't prepared. In my mind, I wasn't prepared for that fucking ride.
You need to get a rag and fucking like just start, because in the film the idea is that, and I think folklorically this is like in the infancy of your vampire stage or whatever, you suck on that rag because eventually you're going to suck on somebody's neck. But that's like a tell. And so at that point, you know that she's a fucking vampire, and he killed himself. I mean, he was going to turn anyway. And the idea is still, I mean, having now killed himself, he could still fucking become one too again. But the idea is now she has that map, and there's a postscript in the film, and that's what I had read in the beginning. So this Duchess, they show an excerpt of the diary of a Duchess in Versailles, in at the royal court in France, from the 7th of June, and her attendant, her maid, has brought in this pale woman who now this fucking Duchess is like super fond of and attached to. And it's like, okay, here we go. Here we fucking go. Mm-hmm. So we've seen a bunch of different vampire films. Mm-hmm. But this is unique.
Absolutely.
And that fucking marionette, like, at this point, I wouldn't have it any other way, because it's so otherworldly.
I would say a lot of people are going to see that for the first thing, and they're going to check out. Don't allow that. Don't allow that to stop you from enjoying this movie. This movie is much better than what you imagine. Part of you is going to think, marionette? Did they run out of money? What the fuck is that? But if you stick with it, the creepiness starts to grow, and it's the absolute right choice. It's the absolute right choice, and it works wonders for the film. As is the case with a lot of films that we talk about, I love being on the fence of of my first reaction to it, and not being sure of what the hell it was that I saw. Sometimes it takes a discussion. Sometimes it takes replaying it in your head and going through the imagery and what it is that you've seen to put gain a little bit of perspective. And it's definitely a film that I'm going to have to make time to watch again because it's too weird and it's too, it's just too strange and too artistically brave to dismiss.
I mean, think of the gift of strangeness, and artistic bravery. Those are the very things that we fucking lack in our cinematic universe at this point. Like, for the most part, obviously this exists, and other things like it exist. But the thing is that, like, they're not at our fucking table, like, left and right. They're fewer and further between nowadays. So, I mean, I think this film is interesting.
I agree.
It's made more interesting. It's made more interesting, I think, because of the fact that it's very unique. Mm-hmm. It's the fucking. I didn't know what to expect because I made it a point to really not learn or look into this shit before, listen to a podcast that was going to spoil the whole thing before I watched it. And so when that point comes, and I'm like, this is a fucking skeleton marionette. What the fuck? And at that point, I was just like, give me more. And I now I want to see what other shit this director's done. If anything, I want to see the Black Sabbath.
Unless they've done something since this film, this is a debut feature.
Yeah, I want to see if he's done anything else.
Yeah.
And yeah, because the vampire, we talked about this. It's material that you can do a lot of shit with, mm-hmm. but a lot of stuff is going to be derivative. I mean, this is, yes, it's derivative of a story that already led to 2 adaptations. But this is unique. I've never seen this. I've never seen a marionette like that, where that's the vampire.
I'd have to agree.
And it challenges you to take it seriously. Mm-hmm. But because it takes itself seriously, you can laugh, but you can still say, like, ha ha ha, but oh my fucking God.
Yeah.
And I did that. I laughed and fucking was like, my eyes were like super wide, and I didn't know what to think, but at the same time I'm laughing and I'm like, this is so fucked up.
When a movie is able to elicit a response, pained, basically passionate, that's when you know you've got something that is worth investing in. And this did elicit that kind of reaction. It's you do take a step back and ask yourself, what the fuck am I watching? And how much more of it is there? In a good way. Because I'm deep diving into this. I haven't seen anything like this. It's not different for different sake. It's different in a creative, inventive, and very brave manner. I can't imagine a movie like this being made. Yeah,
it's just authentic. It's just like and weirdness. We need weirdness. We need less conformity, less rigidity, less all of that formulaic bullshit. Like, this is not going to be a blockbuster. It's not about that. This is about something that's haunting. Like, I'm not going to fucking forget this. I'm not going to forget. You think about the different vampires. I'm not going to forget this fucking creature. Like, I'm not. That's in there, like, forever. Yeah, I think this is just he's such a villain. Like he is a unique cinematic villain. Because it's a fucking, whether you think of it as a marionette or a puppet or whatever, however the fuck you think of it, it's like this character is complex too, because it's like at the end he's like talking about "I love you," and you're not sure, is he mocking him? Is he talking about because he says like, had I met you before, I would have known what it is to be free. Like, does he love him because now he's free that he's been killed, or because he gets staked and then he's set on fire in bed? Like, you don't know exactly what he's talking about, and you don't know that you can believe or trust anything that this person is saying, this entity. But I watched this movie, and I've been watching those scenes with that fucking thing like on repeat, and I'm gonna watch it right now again. And yeah, it's different. So watch it, freak the fuck out, do whatever the fuck you're gonna do. buymeacoffee.com/watchRickRamos. That's buymeacoffee.com/watchRickRamos. This one goes to Stephen Palmer, a member. You want to pass something our way, $5. Doesn't have to be more. You don't have to be a member. You can be a member. You can listen. You can not listen. For us, it's the idea of being able to maintain the archive at Libsyn. We've been doing this shit for 10 years. Go in, explore. When you're on the treadmill or whatever the fuck you're doing, like driving to work or whatever, like take advantage of it. We don't have our shit hidden behind paywalls or any of that. We don't sell whatever that masturbation fucking Joe Rogan toy thing is. Like, we don't have those sponsors, blah, blah. Like, it's just, hey, I'm going to buy you guys a coffee. Or maybe one day I'll buy you. Maybe I won't. I can't right now. We understand that too. Do what you can do. Do what you can do. Be fucking weird. Don't be a toxic vampire skeleton. But don't be the normie worst version of yourselves. Be the version that finds these things and celebrates them within and without. And we've just found this outside somewhere, and we're bringing it into our fucking home. We're inviting the vampires in because that's what we do. We invite you in because that's what we do. You want to invite us in? Do it because that's what you do. Goodbye.